The courtroom was a battlefield of whispers, each word a dagger aimed at Evelyn Harper's heart. She sat alone on the wooden bench, her hands trembling as the lawyer's voice echoed. Gold digger. Opportunist. Unworthy. 3 years of love, of late-night confessions and shared dreams, reduced to cruel accusations in a San Francisco probate court. Evelyn, 32, had never imagined her life would unravel like this. Her hazel eyes, usually bright with quiet resilience, were dulled by grief and betrayal. She wore a simple black dress, the same one she'd worn to Isabel's funeral just weeks ago. Isabel Grant, her wife, her anchor, had been everything. 38, radiant, a tech heiress whose wealth never defined her but whose family now wielded it like a weapon. The Grant family, led by Isabel's older brother, Theodore, sat across the room, their faces stone-cold, their lawyers armed with documents claiming Evelyn deserved nothing. It hadn't always been this way. 3 years earlier, Evelyn met Isabel at a small bookstore in the Mission District. Evelyn, a part-time barista and aspiring poet, was reading her work at an open mic night. Her voice, soft but steady, wove stories of love and loss that made the room fall silent. Isabel, in a navy coat that couldn't hide her elegance, had been captivated. After the reading, she approached Evelyn, her blue eyes sparkling. "Your words," she'd said. "They're like a map to a place I've been searching for." Their connection was instant, electric. Isabel, a software engineer who'd built a fortune through her startup, lived a life of quiet generosity. She funded community centers, mentored young coders, and never flaunted her wealth. Evelyn, who'd grown up in a small Oregon town with little to her name, was drawn to Isabel's heart, not her bank account. Their first date was a walk along Ocean Beach, the Pacific waves crashing as they shared stories of their past. Evelyn's struggles with her conservative family, Isabel's battles with her own, who saw her queerness as a flaw to be fixed. But love, Evelyn learned, was never just love. It was a war against the world's judgments. Isabel's family tolerated their relationship but never embraced it. Theodore, a venture capitalist with a sharp tongue, called Evelyn the barista with a sneer. Their mother, Margaret, a society matron, treated Evelyn like an outsider, her smiles thin and cutting. Only Isabel's younger sister, Clara, showed kindness, but even she was powerless against the family's influence. As their relationship deepened, Evelyn and Isabel built a life together. They moved into a cozy apartment in No Valley, filled with books, art, and the scent of Evelyn's lavender candles. Isabel proposed on a foggy evening at Land's End, kneeling on the cliffside trail with a simple gold band. "I don't need the world," she'd whispered. "I just need you." Evelyn said yes, tears mixing with the mist. Their wedding was small, intimate, held in a wildflower garden in Golden Gate Park. Evelyn wore a cream dress that flowed like a poem. Isabel, a tailored suit that made her look like she could conquer anything. They danced under string lights, their laughter drowning out the distant hum of the city. For a moment the world was theirs. But happiness was fragile. 6 months ago, Isabel started feeling tired, her vibrant energy fading. Doctors found a rare cancer, aggressive and unyielding. Evelyn became her caretaker, her partner, her everything. She held Isabel's hand through chemo, read her poetry when the pain was too much, and promised they'd fight together. But the disease was merciless. Isabel died on a rainy April morning, her last words to Evelyn, "You are my home." The funeral was a blur of black umbrellas and cold stares. Theodore barred Evelyn from speaking, claiming it was a family matter. Margaret whispered to guests that Evelyn was just a phase Isabel had outgrown. Clara, teary-eyed, squeezed Evelyn's hand but said nothing. The weight of their judgment crushed Evelyn, but she held her head high for Isabel. Now in the courtroom, the battle was for Isabel's estate. Her will, written a year ago, left everything to Evelyn: the apartment, her savings, her startup shares. But Theodore contested it, claiming Evelyn had manipulated Isabel, that their marriage was a sham. "She's a gold digger," he told the judge, his voice dripping with venom. "She saw my sister's money and pounced." Evelyn's lawyer, a kind but overworked public defender named Sarah, fought back. "This is about love, not money," she argued, presenting letters Isabel had written, filled with devotion to Evelyn. But the Grants' legal team was relentless, painting Evelyn as a schemer who'd seduced a vulnerable heiress. They even questioned the validity of their marriage, citing Isabel's mental fragility during her illness. The judge, an older man with a stern face, listened impassively. Evelyn felt the room closing in. Her grief for Isabel tangled with the humiliation of being dissected publicly. She wanted to scream that she'd loved Isabel with every fiber of her being, that she'd trade every penny for one more day with her. But she sat silently, clutching a locket Isabel had given her, a photo of them smiling inside. As the hearing adjourned for the day, Theodore approached Evelyn, his eyes cold. "You'll get nothing," he hissed. "You never belonged in our world." Evelyn met his gaze, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "I was Isabel's world. That's all that matters." Outside, the San Francisco fog wrapped around her like a shroud. She walked to the park where they'd married, sitting on a bench overlooking the city. The weight of loss and betrayal threatened to break her, but she whispered to herself, "I'll fight for you, Isabel. I'll fight for us." Clara, the only Grant who'd shown her kindness, appeared beside her, hesitant. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't know they'd go this far." Evelyn looked at her, searching for an ally. "Do you believe I loved her?" she asked. Clara nodded, tears in her eyes. "I do. But they'll never let you win." Evelyn's heart sank, but something inside her stirred a spark of defiance. She wasn't just fighting for money. She was fighting for the truth of their love, for the life they'd built, for the promises they'd made. She wouldn't let the Grants erase her. Not now, not ever. Evelyn returned to their apartment that night, the silence deafening without Isabel's laughter. The walls held memories, photos of their road trip to Big Sur, a shelf of poetry books they'd read aloud, the couch where they'd planned their future. She opened Isabel's laptop, a habit from the days when she'd help with emails during chemo. A folder labeled for Evie caught her eye. Inside were videos, dozens of them, recorded by Isabel in her final months. She clicked the first one, her heart pounding. Isabel's face filled the screen, pale but radiant, her blonde hair tucked behind her ears. "Evie," she said, her voice soft but firm, "if you're watching this, I'm gone. But I need you to know you were my everything. Don't let them break you." Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as Isabel spoke of their love, their dreams, and her fear that her family would try to erase Evelyn's place in her life. "You're my wife," Isabel said. "No one can take that away." The videos became Evelyn's lifeline. Each night she watched another, clinging to Isabel's words. Some were practical, Isabel explaining her will, detailing how she'd left everything to Evelyn to ensure her security. Others were raw, emotional, Isabel confessing her love or recounting memories, like the time they danced in the rain on Market Street. One video, recorded just days before her death, ended with Isabel saying, "If they fight you, Evie, fight back. You're stronger than you know." Evelyn shared the videos with Sarah, her lawyer, who saw them as a game changer. "This is undeniable proof of Isabel's intent," Sarah said, her eyes bright with hope. "We'll present these in court." But Evelyn hesitated. The videos were sacred, a private piece of Isabel she wasn't ready to expose to the Grant's scrutiny. Still, she agreed, knowing it was her best chance. The next court date was brutal. Theodore's lawyers attacked the video's authenticity, claiming they could have been edited. They brought in a psychologist who testified that Isabel's illness made her susceptible to manipulation, implying Evelyn had coerced her into making the recordings. Evelyn's stomach churned as they twisted Isabel's love into something sordid. Sarah fought back, playing a video where Isabel, clear-eyed and resolute, declared, "Evelyn is my heart. My family may not understand, but this is my truth." The courtroom fell silent, Isabel's voice cutting through the tension. Even the judge leaned forward, his expression softening. For a moment, Evelyn felt hope. But Theodore's team was relentless, filing motions to delay, demanding forensic analysis of the videos. The judge granted a continuance, leaving Evelyn in limbo. Outside court, Clara approached again, this time with a nervous energy. "I found something," she whispered, slipping Evelyn a USB drive. "It's from Isabel's office. I don't know what's on it, but she hid it for a reason." Evelyn's pulse quickened. She thanked Clara, who disappeared into the fog, glancing over her shoulder as if afraid of being caught. That night, Evelyn plugged the USB into Isabel's laptop. It contained emails, financial records, and a letter from Isabel to her family, written a year before her diagnosis. In it, Isabel pleaded with them to accept Evelyn, warning that she'd cut them off if they didn't. "Evelyn is my future," she wrote. "If you can't love her, you don't love me." There were also records of payments Isabel had made to Theodore's failing ventures, revealing his dependence on her wealth. Evelyn realized Isabel had known her family's greed could tear them apart. She shared the findings with Sarah, who saw a pattern. "Theodore's desperate to control the estate because he's in debt," she said. "This could discredit his motives." They planned to use the documents to show Theodore's bias, but Evelyn knew it wouldn't be easy. The Grants had power, money, and a network of influence. She was just a poet with a broken heart. Evelyn started writing again, pouring her grief and defiance into poems. She posted them online, tagging them with "For Isabel." They went viral, resonating with strangers who'd faced similar battles. Messages poured in support from queer communities, allies, even a few of Isabel's former colleagues. One, a coder named Mia, reached out, saying she'd worked with Isabel on a side project. "She talked about you all the time," Mia wrote. "I might have something to help." Mia met Evelyn at a cafe in the Castro, handing her a hard drive. "Isabel was working on an app," she explained. "It was for queer youth, a safe space online. She wanted you to run it if anything happened to her." The hard drive contained the app's code and a note from Isabel. "Evie, this is our legacy. Keep it alive." Evelyn felt a surge of purpose. The app wasn't just Cody, it was Isabel's dream, a way to help others like them. She vowed to protect it, even as the legal battle loomed. But the Grants weren't done. Theodore's team filed a new motion, claiming Evelyn had stolen intellectual property from Isabel's startup. The accusation hit like a punch, threatening not just her inheritance but her freedom. As the next court date approached, Evelyn stood at their apartment window, watching the city lights blur through her tears. She held Isabel's locket, whispering, "I won't let them win." The fight was no longer just for her, it was for every moment she and Isabel had shared, for every promise they'd made, for the love the world couldn't erase. The courtroom felt like a trap closing around Evelyn. Theodore's latest accusation that she'd stolen intellectual property from Isabel's startup hung over her like a storm cloud. The claim was absurd, but the Grants' legal team spun a convincing tale, painting Evelyn as a schemer who'd exploited Isabel's illness to access proprietary code. Sarah, her lawyer, was furious. "They're trying to scare you into settling," she said. "But we've got the app's documentation. It's in Isabel's handwriting, naming you as her successor." Evelyn clung to the hard drive Mia had given her, the one containing Isabel's app for queer youth. It was more than Cody, it was a lifeline, a piece of Isabel's heart. She spent nights studying it, learning its purpose. A platform where young people could find community, resources, and safety. Isabel had poured her soul into it, and Evelyn felt a responsibility to carry it forward. But the legal battle was draining her. The Grants' wealth seemed endless, their lawyers relentless. Evelyn's savings were dwindling, and the stress was wearing her down. She found solace in the online community that had rallied around her poems. The hashtag for Isabel had grown into a movement, with thousands sharing stories of love, loss, and resilience. Strangers sent donations to help with legal fees, and a local queer organization offered pro bono support. It wasn't much, but it reminded Evelyn she wasn't alone. Still, the weight of the fight was crushing. She missed Isabel's touch, her voice, the way she'd make everything feel possible. Clara became an unexpected ally. She started meeting Evelyn in secret, sharing bits of information about the Grant family's tactics. One night at a quiet diner in the marina, Clara revealed a bombshell. "Theodore's been hiding debts," she said, sliding over a folder of bank statements. "He's been siphoning money from Isabel's startup for years. If the board finds out, he's finished." Evelyn's eyes widened. This could turn the tide, exposing Theodore's motives and weakening his case. But using the information meant betraying Clara's trust. She was risking her family's wrath to help Evelyn, and Evelyn didn't want to endanger her. "Why are you doing this?" Evelyn asked. Clara's eyes softened. "Because Isabel loved you, and I loved her. I should have stood up for you both sooner." Evelyn reached across the table, squeezing Clara's hand. For the first time, she felt a flicker of family, however fragile. Sarah used the financial records to file a counterclaim, arguing that Theodore's contesting of the will was driven by personal gain. The courtroom buzzed as she presented evidence of his debts, linking them to Isabel's startup funds. Theodore's face reddened, his composure cracking. But his lawyers were quick, spinning the narrative to paint Isabel as reckless with her wealth, implying Evelyn had encouraged her spending. The judge ordered a forensic audit of the startup's finances, delaying the case further. Evelyn felt trapped in a cycle of hope and despair. Each night she returned to the videos, Isabel's voice anchoring her. In one, Isabel spoke of their dream to open a community center for queer youth, funded by the app's success. "You'll make it happen, Evie," she said, her smile weak but certain. "You're my warrior." Inspired, Evelyn started working on the app, teaching herself enough coding to understand its framework. Mia helped, meeting her at the cafe to tweak the code. They launched a beta version, inviting queer youth to test it. The response was overwhelming. Kids from across the country shared how the platform gave them hope, a place to be themselves. Evelyn saw Isabel in every message, her legacy alive in the lives they were touching. But the Grants escalated their attack. They hired a private investigator, who dug into Evelyn's past, uncovering her estranged family in Oregon. Her parents, devoutly religious, had disowned her when she came out at 18. The investigator twisted this, suggesting Evelyn was unstable, a runaway, who'd latched onto Isabel for stability. They even contacted her parents, who sent a letter to the court calling her untrustworthy. The betrayal stung, reopening wounds Evelyn thought she'd healed. Sarah urged her to stay strong. "They're grasping at straws," she said. "The videos, the app, Clara's evidence sites all on your side." But Evelyn wasn't sure. The Grants' influence was suffocating, and the courtroom felt like a stage where her love was on trial. She started to doubt herself, wondering if she was strong enough to keep fighting. One night, unable to sleep, Evelyn walked to Ocean Beach, where she and Isabel had their first date. The waves roared and she screamed into the wind, releasing her anger, her grief, her fear. She remembered Isabel's words. "You're stronger than you know." She clutched the locket, feeling Isabel's presence. "I'm trying," she whispered. "I'm trying so hard." The next day Mia called with news. A tech journalist had caught wind of the app and wanted to write about it, framing it as Isabel's legacy and Evelyn's fight. Could sway public opinion, maybe even the judge. Evelyn agreed, but fear gnawed at her. Exposure could bring support or more attacks. As the court date loomed, she braced herself, knowing the battle was far from over. The article hit like a wildfire. Published in a major tech outlet, it detailed Isabel's app, her love for Evelyn, and the Grants' ruthless campaign to discredit her. Titled "A Love Worth Fighting For," it included quotes from users of the app, who called it a lifeline for queer youth. The story went viral, amplified by the For Isabel movement. Support poured in, donations, messages, even protests outside the courthouse. But so did the backlash. Theodore's allies in the tech world accused Evelyn of exploiting Isabel's memory for fame. Online trolls called her a fraud, echoing the gold digger label. Evelyn tried to focus on the positive. The app was growing with thousands of users and a small team of volunteers, including Mia, helping to maintain it. Evelyn poured her energy into it, seeing it as a way to honor Isabel. But the legal battle was relentless. The forensic audit confirmed Theodore's financial misconduct, but his lawyers argued it was irrelevant to the will. They doubled down, claiming Evelyn had pressured Isabel into risky investments, including the app. In court, Sarah presented a new video from Isabel, recorded during a lucid moment in her final weeks. Isabel looked frail but fierce, her blue eyes blazing. "My family wants my money, not my memory," she said. "Evelyn is the only one who ever saw me for me. Protect my app, Evie. It's our gift to the world." The courtroom was silent, the weight of Isabel's words undeniable. Even Theodore looked shaken, but his lawyers quickly moved to suppress the video, claiming it was emotionally manipulative. The judge, growing weary of the delays, set a final hearing for 2 weeks later. Evelyn felt the clock ticking, her hope fraying. She was exhausted, her savings gone, living off donations and part-time work at the cafe. The apartment, once a sanctuary, felt like a museum of loss. She stopped sleeping, haunted by nightmares of losing everything: Isabel's love, her legacy, her own sense of self. Clara reached out again, this time with a risky plan. "There's a board meeting at the startup next week," she said. "Theodore's presenting to investors, acting like he's in control. If we expose his debts there, the board could oust him. It might weaken his case." Evelyn hesitated. It was a gamble, one that could backfire and alienate Clara forever. But she agreed, trusting Isabel's sister. They planned carefully. Clara, still an insider at the startup, leaked the financial records to a board member she trusted. Evelyn, meanwhile, prepared a statement about the app, emphasizing Isabel's vision and her role in it. The night before the meeting, Evelyn sat at her desk, writing a letter to Isabel. "I'm scared," she admitted, "but I'm fighting for us. I love you." She sealed it, placing it beside the locket. The board meeting was chaos. Clara presented the evidence, and the room erupted. Theodore tried to deflect, but the board demanded an investigation. By the next day, he was suspended as CEO, his reputation crumbling. The news reached the courtroom, and Sarah used it to argue that Theodore's motives were tainted by greed. The judge, now skeptical of the grant's narrative, ordered mediation to settle the estate. Mediation was tense. Theodore, Margaret, and their lawyers faced Evelyn and Sarah in a sterile conference room. Theodore offered a settlement. A small sum, enough to cover Evelyn's legal fees, but no share of the estate or the startup. "Take it and walk away," he said coldly. Evelyn's heart raced. She thought of Isabel's videos, her letter, the app. "No," she said, her voice steady. "I'm not here for your money. I'm here for Isabel's truth." Margaret, silent until now, spoke. "You'll ruin us," she said, her voice trembling. "Isabel was my daughter." Evelyn met her gaze. "She was my wife. And you never saw how much she loved me." For the first time, Margaret looked away, her face unreadable. The mediation failed, pushing the case to a final ruling. Evelyn felt both terrified and liberated. She'd stood up to the grants, for herself and for Isabel. The app was thriving, a testament to their love. But the outcome was uncertain, and the weight of it kept her awake. She walked to Land's End, where Isabel had proposed, and sat on the cliffside, the ocean stretching endlessly before her. "I'm almost there," she whispered, clutching the locket. "I'm fighting for you." The final hearing arrived like a storm breaking. The courtroom was packed, reporters, supporters, and curious onlookers drawn by the viral story. Evelyn sat beside Sarah, her hand steady despite the knot in her stomach. She wore Isabel's gold band on her finger, a reminder of why she'd fought so hard. The judge, his face lined with the weight of the case, called for order. Sarah presented their final argument, weaving together Isabel's videos, the app's success, and Theodore's financial misconduct. "This isn't about money," she said. "It's about honoring Isabel Grant's wishes, her love, and her legacy. Evelyn Harper is her wife, her chosen heir, her partner in every sense." She played one last video, Isabel's voice filling the room. "Evie, you gave me a home. Don't let them take it from you." Theodore's lawyers tried to counter, but their arguments felt hollow. The evidence of his debts, the app's impact, and the public's support had shifted the narrative. Even Margaret, sitting beside Theodore, seemed subdued, her eyes fixed on the floor. The judge retired to deliberate, leaving Evelyn in a haze of hope and fear. Hours later he returned. His ruling was measured but clear. Isabel's will was valid. Evelyn would inherit the apartment, the savings, and a controlling share of the startup, including the app. Theodore's contest was dismissed, his credibility damaged by the financial revelations. The courtroom erupted, cheers from supporters, gasps from the grants. Evelyn sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. She'd won, but the victory felt bittersweet without Isabel to share it. Theodore stormed out, Margaret trailing behind. Clara stayed, approaching Evelyn with a tentative smile. "You did it," she said. "Isabel would be proud." Evelyn hugged her, grateful for the fragile bond they'd built. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in us." Evelyn left the courthouse into a sea of supporters, their signs reading for Isabel. She felt Isabel's presence in the crowd, in the love that had carried her through. That night, she returned to the apartment, opening the letter she'd written to Isabel. She added a final line. "We won, my love. We won." The app became her focus. With the startup's resources, she expanded it, hiring a team to reach more youth. It grew into a national platform, offering counseling, mentorship, and community. Evelyn spoke at events, sharing her and Isabel's story, inspiring others to fight for their truth. The pain of the battle lingered, but so did the love that fueled it. One spring morning, Evelyn visited the wildflower garden where they'd married. She sat among the blooms, the locket warm against her chest. "You were my home," she said, echoing Isabel's words. "And now I'm building yours." The wind carried her words, and she felt a peace she hadn't known since Isabel's death. The world had tried to erase their love, calling her a gold digger, stripping her of dignity. But Evelyn had fought not for money, but for the truth of who they were. She'd lost Isabel, but she'd gained a purpose, a legacy that would outlive the pain. And in every line of code, every young person who found hope through the app, Isabel lived on. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.